Hello and welcome to CultureCast. In this episode, we will discuss Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. I'm Kelsey.
I'm Grace.
I'm Michelle.
And I'm Carly.
And now I'm going to speak about the author. Edward Albee was born on March 12, 1928 in Virginia. He grew up in Larchmont, New York. He found the culture to be hollow and unsatisfactory. Albee's first play premiered in 1958. He is known for his works The Zoo Story, The Sandbox, and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. In 1985, Albee was inducted into the American Theater Hall of Fame. In 1967, he founded the Edward F. Albee Foundation, which he is now the president of. The mission of the foundation is to serve writers and visual artists from all walks of life by providing time and space in which to work without disturbance.
Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf premiered on October 13, 1962. It won the 1963 Tony Award for Best Play and the 1963 New York Drama's Critics Circle for Best Play. The title is a pun on the song Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf from Walt Disney's The Three Little Pigs, substituting the name of the celebrated English author Virginia Woolf. Virginia Woolf was a writer who is famous for her stream of consciousness style. This style allowed for the audience to show the emotional truth of her characters. This connects to the play because the characters live in fear of the illusions they have built being broken down. So when the characters say, "Who's afraid of Virginia Woolf?" they really mean, "Who's afraid of living without illusion?" Woolf suffered from several bouts of bipolar disorder throughout her life, and at age 59, she committed suicide by drowning herself.
There are four main characters in this play. George, who is part of the history department at New Carthage University. He is 46 years old and is married to Martha. Martha is married to George, and she is the daughter of the president of New Carthage University. She is very disappointed in George because he is not the head of the university department, and she expects more of him. Later in the play, she attempts to have an affair with Nick. Nick is a new member of the biology department, often mistaken for being a member of the mathematical department at New Carthage University. He is very young, he is in great shape, extremely smart, and good-looking. He is also married to Honey. Honey is Nick's wife. She's 26 and very little, but not very intelligent.
The play takes place in 1962 in a New England college campus. It is mentioned by George that it takes place in the city of New Carthage, but it may just be a history pun on his part. All the scenes are at George and Martha's house that is located on the New England college campus. This shows Martha's worship and loyalty to her father, but also makes George look like a failure. The couple stop at a bar to dance. This is where Martha reveals George's secret of trying to publish a book.
The initial situation between Martha and George is rugged. The couple argue and are both disappointed in where they are in life. They hide behind the whole idea of illusions to escape from the real world. Martha could not have kids, so they decided to make up a son and create his imaginary life for him, but no one else can know about it. After a party at her father's, Martha invites guests over from the university, a professor in the math department named Nick and his wife Honey. Martha and George drag the couple into their problematic relationship, and soon secrets and illusions are revealed. Martha attacks George by bringing up the uncomfortable subject of their son in front of their guests. She also expresses how she is disappointed in him for not being head of the history department. This then angers George, and he throws a liquor bottle to the floor, which makes Honey sick, and she goes to vomit. Later, Nick and George have some bonding time, where Nick admits he only married Honey because he thought that she was pregnant. George also tells the story of how a teenage boy accidentally killed both his parents.
Later that night, they all want to dance. Martha and Nick start to dance seductively with each other, and then George turns off the music. Martha, upset that George did that, tells the story of George wanting to publish a book about a teenager that accidentally kills both of his parents, but Martha's father would not let him. She also reveals that the story is true, and the teenager is George. George retaliates by telling the story of why Nick married Honey. Outraged, Nick and Honey leave, and so does Martha with the car, and George is left. When he gets back to the house, Martha and Nick are upstairs having sex. George tries to brush it off, but deep down he is extremely hurt and drives him towards his next climactic decision. When Martha and Nick come back down, she refers to him as a houseboy because he could not perform. George then tells Martha that while they were upstairs, he received a telegram stating that their son had died in a car accident that afternoon. Martha soon becomes hysterical, stating that George cannot kill off their son. This marks the climactic scene in the play. Nick soon realizes why Martha is so upset and understands the illusion of their son, and he and his wife quietly leave. Martha and George are left alone together, deprived of their illusion, but somehow are closer than they have been the entire play.
There are many themes seen throughout this play, including reality versus illusion. Throughout the story, we notice that George and Martha are very miserable with their lives, and it brings bitterness and complications to the marriage. We can tell that they once used to love each other, but they have tried to cover it up, and the more they drink, the more the truth begins to come out. The reality of their lives is that they both are unhappy, and they do not know how to fix it. To cover up their sadness, they both make up a child that they never had. They become dependent on this fake child because that is the only thing that they could ever bond over. This is the illusion of the story. Throughout the whole story, we are led to believe that they have a 16-year-old son, when in reality it is a lie that they have created. We also see the theme of social expectations. The whole idea on which the story contradicts the idea of a perfect American family, a family that consisted of two parents and their children, in which the family is extremely happy. The man works while the wife stays at home. The whole story contradicts this idea. George and Martha are miserable together, and one of the underlying reasons is because they cannot have children. Martha shows us the complete opposite of how a woman was supposed to act during that time. George and Martha's chance at a perfect family was ruined from not being able to have a child, and the fact that George cannot hold a higher status job at the university keeps from the family being the ideal 1950s American family.
There seems to be a struggle for power between Martha and George throughout the play. Martha is seen to have power because her father is the president of the university. She holds that over George's head because she believes he is unworthy to use that opportunity to gain more power at the university. However, due to the time period, Martha would be nothing without a husband. She needs a man to run the house, and she can only use her connection to her father at the university through whichever her husband does. Also, Martha tries to gain power through her sexuality. She does this by changing into a sexy outfit in order to control George and Nick. The irony in this story is that they try to make it seem that they have the perfect life and that they are happy, but as the night progresses, we see otherwise. George and Martha make up lies, for example, that they have a son, so that they can have the ideal family for the past 16 years. Not only do George and Martha lie about things that happened in their lives, Nick and Honey also make up lies to make themselves seem more content with their lives. Nick married Honey because of her money and also because they thought that she was pregnant.
The play is deemed a tragicomedy due to the serious subject matter combined with dark humor. There is humor found as Honey becomes belligerently drunk and when George and Martha use clever wordplay against each other, but all throughout the play it is very obvious that the marriage between George and Martha is failing. The first act is titled Fun and Games, which fits as a couple fight in new and inventive ways. It's tragic because they are both saying hurtful things to cut the other one down, but the sarcasm and wit used in their banter can also be seen as humorous.
Edward Albee combines two types of drama in this play, realism and absurdism. Realistic playwrights write plays that are realistic to audience by dialogue, location, and conflicts that are related to most people. This play is realistic in a way that all the characters speak a typical way, the setting is in a cottage living room, and the conflict is between a couple that have an unhealthy relationship. As realistic as the play seems, it has characteristics that make it absurdism. All of the illusions that Martha and George create, including the illusion of their son, show absurdism.
Throughout the play, we notice that Martha and George continually argue, and it does get violent. Because they argue so much, it often brings Nick and Honey in the middle of it. George tends to pick on Nick, often commenting on him being in the mathematical department. Meanwhile, he is in the biology department. It shows us that he wants to belittle Nick and make himself feel better about his career. Yet at other times, we see the more romantic side of George and Martha's relationship. These moments outshine the moments in which they are arguing.
There are many symbols seen throughout the play. The whole idea of babies comes up often in it. Both couples call each other baby, and George and Martha refer to Nick and Honey as young children. Also, both couples had imaginary children. Honey had a hysterical pregnancy, and Martha made up her son. The characters in this play also use alcohol as a method of hiding from the truth. Whenever one of the characters is confronted with a problem, they ask for a drink. This ties into the theme of illusion and how the characters try to escape from their reality. Their drunkenness serves as an illusion to distract the characters from the tension of their marriages. The American Dream was one of Albee's favorite and most commonly used themes. George and Martha are named after George and Martha Washington to try to represent the happy American couple. Just like the whole idea of their imaginary sun, the play suggests that the American dream itself is an unattainable illusion.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of CultureCast. That's all, folks.